You're listening to the Fierce Fatty Podcast, episode 76, Fat Fetishism and Intuitive Fasting. How to spot a diet culture charlatan. Let's do it!
Perfect!
I'm Victoria Wellesby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident, fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty Podcast. Let's begin.
Welcome to episode 76. If you are one of the people who've listened to all 75 previous episodes, massive fatty high fives to ya. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of hours of listening to me talk. So thank you if that's you. I really appreciate it. It's pretty cool. I'm trying to do a better job of categorizing the stuff that I talk about in episodes, because I literally, as soon as I finish the record button, my mind is wiped clean of what I spoke about. So like next week I'm like, what did I speak about last week? Have I ever spoken about fat phobia before? Maybe I should speak about that. And I'm like, yeah, you've spoken about it before. I forget. So I'm trying to catalog things and create a search function on my website so you can be like, okay, I want to search about science and find all the science episodes and things like that. So, but it feels like I've covered so much, yet I've barely touched on so many things. Probably because it goes out of our minds, right? It goes out of our minds. But thank you for being here. If you like the show, then why not give me a review on wherever you're listening? That would be really helpful. Or not. I'm not the boss of you. I've got no new dating stories for you. I'm sorry. I know it's been a week. It's been a week since my last update of calling the police. And I haven't had to call the police on anyone else yet. So I would say that it's pretty amazing. I've just been chatting to people. You know what though? Like, I don't know if I've mentioned this in last episode, but people don't seem to know how to have a conversation, or it's making me think maybe I don't know how to have a conversation. I know, tell me if you think of this as weird, but when you're having a conversation with someone, there's some kind of like back and forth, right? Like, how was your day? Good. My day was fine. How was your day? Great. What are you up to tonight? Or whatever. I don't know. That's so it's like a back and forth. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. What you been doing? Tell me about you. And it just always seems like they're like, hi, and I'm hi, how you? Yeah, good. So I'll ask them a question, and they'll be like, yeah, the color green. I'm like, okay, cool. So ask them another question, and they're like, answer the question, and that's it. And I'm thinking, ask me a fucking question. Is that just me? They never ask any questions, right? Like, you know, I'm like, oh, so how long have you lived in Vancouver? They'll be like, oh, this long? Like, yeah. Anything else you want to input? No? Oh, so what brought you here? Oh, this did? Okay, yeah. Any other input? No. So I feel like I'm just there asking them questions or, commenting on what they said and hoping that they might say, so tell me about you. Maybe I'm just, I just want to talk about my favorite subject, which is me. I don't know. I don't think that's weird for expecting them to ask questions, but that's always been my number one issue is they just never, that's not true. But often people don't ask questions. Well, I don't know. But anyway, I'll keep you updated if anything exciting happens. Something that's coming up when this podcast comes out is I'm making something to help you. So this is in the future. Right now it's March, but something's coming up in May and this podcast is going to come out between then and then. So I need to tell you about it. So I am going to create a challenge which is going to be called Be in All the Photos, Ditch the Boring Clothes and Stop Pulling Your Top Down to Hide Your Belly. How to Love Your Fat Body. So it'll be like a How to Love Your Fat Body challenge. And in 5 days, I am going to take you through the steps to love your fat body, how to love your fat body. And I'm going to run it for free the first time round. And so it's starting on the 3rd of May. And then afterwards I'm going to be creating it into a mini paid offer. So if you want to get in for free, then go to fiercefatty.com/challenge. fiercefatty.com/challenge. How to love your fat body. Be in all the photos, ditch the boring clothes, and stop pulling your top down to hide your belly. Fiercefatty.com/challenge. I'm just right now, I'm like mapping it all out. And so it'll be 5 days of like mini trainings and, videos and private Facebook community and challenging you to do shit so that you feel better, because we want to get you out of that constant learner mode, don't we? Don't we now? Constant learner mode I'm always talking about. Just learning stuff, not doing it. So yeah, but don't let that scare you. No, we're just doing learning. We're doing learning. We're not doing anything doing. No doing is happening. So yeah, go and register for free, fiercefatty.com/challenge. If you're listening to the podcast after May the 3rd, you can still go to that link, and then you'll either be directed, depending how long after, you'll be directed to join and recap where, what you've missed. So if you're listening on the, 6th or something, then, you can still go and join. And even if it's way in the future, then you're going to find the details out anyway. So fiercefatty.com/challenge. So go do that. Had some good news this week. I just, I love having a chat with people. I'm out having a chat. I've had this cold for the last few weeks. I've not been able to get rid of it. Just runny nose, can't get rid of it. And I went into the pharmacist after a few weeks of this annoyance. I said, I've got a runny nose, give me something for the sniffles. And he said, are you sure it's a cold? Could it be allergies? And I said, no, never had allergies. What are you talking about? And then he said, yeah, you can get it in adulthood. And then I realised last summer I had some sniffles and found out that it might be allergies that you get in adulthood. Turns out, yeah, because I bought some of the tablets, the antihistamines or whatever they're called, and it turns out it wasn't a cold. So my good news is I had hay fever. That's all right. I've got fever, but now my cold is gone because it wasn't a cold. It was just the sniffles from hay fever. So life is good for me. Don't say it doesn't get fucking hardcore over here in the Wellesby household with diagnosing hay fever. I'm telling you, it is, shit gets real. I know. It's pretty, you're probably going to write that in your diary tonight. Victoria discovered that she had hay fever and not the sniffles from a cold. It was a highlight of my week. So we have a listener question that I would like to answer from Kirsty. So, listener question. Let me read it out to you. Are you ready? Are you comfortable? Let us begin. Hi, Victoria. You've mentioned in the past about people who have a fat fetish, but I'm wondering if you could tell me more. I recently entered the dating scene after a 12-year relationship with a straight-sized man where we never really discussed me being fat. I agreed to meet a guy for a date and I had a feeling that he had a fat fetish which I didn't know too much about. But now I'm actually dating him, early days, and I'm conflicted between actually really liking him and feeling uncomfortable about him fetishizing and sexualizing me. For example, he cooks for me large portions and offers me snacks all the time. He has asked to physically feed me too, which I agreed to once, but it really wasn't for me. He enjoys things like watching me get out of breath while walking uphill and all the bits of my body that society says no one should. Upper arm fat, tummy rolls, fupa, etc. A part of me thinks that I should just enjoy myself and let him enjoy me. But a part of me feels like he wouldn't be into me at all if I was thinner, which seems superficial, not just sexual preference. Would appreciate some advice. Many thanks, Kirsty. Great question, Kirsty. Okay, so what do you think? What do you think the answer to this is? So things I want to say, things that are in my brain about this, and I would like to say is that it's okay to have a fetish as long as they are not non-consensually hurting other people. And, you know, if everyone's on board and everyone's enjoying it, having fun, go bananas. And so it's okay also to have a fat fetish. And something to remember here is we tend to demonize those who fetishize fat bodies. And we say, oh, they're gross and they're abnormal and there's something weird about them if they've got a thing for fat people and that they should be ashamed. But we don't have the same view about people who have a thin fetish, which is most of society. Most of society fetishizes thin bodies. And that's just seen as a preference, right? Oh, I just prefer it when you know my partner is thin. I just really like the thinness of them. Doesn't matter about their personality as long as they're thin. And so we can clearly see when a thin fetish is a problem, which is everything that we're doing in this podcast is breaking that down. That is, you know, fat phobia. And, you know, it's when it's non-consensual and when it becomes rigid and all-encompassing and it's not fun, then it's an issue. But fetishes can be fun to explore and play around with and you know, something that you could be new to and you're like, I'm not sure about this and I don't know. And you try it out and you're like, I don't really like this. Or actually I like these things, but not these things. Or I like all of it. And so the way that anyone reacts to different experiences is different for everyone, right? So also pointing out here is that just liking something doesn't make it a fetish. So let me read from Wikipedia what sexual fetishism is. So, quote, sexual fetishism or erotic fetishism is a sexual fixation on a non-living object or non-genital body part. The object of interest is called the fetish. The person who has a fetish for that object is a fetishist. A sexual fetish may be regarded as non-pathological and as a non-pathological aid to sexual excitement, or as a mental disorder if it causes significant psychosocial distress for the person or has detrimental effects on important areas of their life. Sexual arousal from a particular body part can further be classified as partialism. Never heard that one before. While medical definitions restrict the term sexual fetishism to objects or body parts, fetish can, in common discourse, also refer to sexual interest in specific activities. So it could be that your partner just likes fatness, just thinks it's pretty cool, and also likes straight-sized bodies, and also likes all sorts of different things. And even if you do have a fetish, you can still like all sorts of different things too. And so maybe it's just liking, and even if it is just a fetish can be fine and great and fun, and it's all down to how you feel about it. So what I think here is the issue here is communication. That this person hasn't told you that that they're fetishizing you, if they are, and we don't know for sure if he is fetishizing you, which wouldn't be inherently bad, but you gotta be in on it too, right? You can't have this like one-sided thing where you don't know what's going on because it's causing you discomfort, which is what's happening right now. You're not comforted by this experience that you're having. We don't know if he just happens to like feeding you. And that could be something that's really nice for him. Like, oh my God, that's like my mum, my little Irish mum. When she loves feeding people. And it's just an act of love, right? And I can see that too, like when people come around and I just want them to feel free and happy and comfortable. And so, say if it was someone coming around for dinner, pre-COVID days, imagine those days when people would come around for dinner. I would want to make them as much food as they would feel comfortable with, like I would want to make sure that they didn't leave hungry because, it would make me sad to think that they didn't feel comfortable around me to eat. Maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. Maybe the same with like being out of breath. Him enjoying you, like we don't know. I don't know what he's saying or doing, or you do, but it could be that he just appreciates you being able to be vulnerable. Because how we all, when we're walking up the hill, everyone's like, let's hold the breath when someone walks by. We don't want them to know that we're fighting for our lives. And everyone's doing the same thing. Like every, straight-sized person, fat person, everyone is going up the hill being like, not out of breath at all, totally. Because we want the other person to think we're an athlete or something. Maybe if you're just out of breath, it shows that you don't give a fuck what he's thinking. And you're just like, whew, that was a tough hill to climb. And he's like, do you know what? It's really cool that you're able to be yourself. I don't know. Or it could be that there's something else going on there. I don't know the answer. It sounds like you don't know the answer, maybe. And so talking to him about that would be really helpful. Another thing to note here is that it can be incredibly strange to have someone appreciate your body, especially pieces of your body which we are told are, not good, like you mentioned. And the thing is, like, for the way that I view it is that I get it, as in I get why someone would want to appreciate your body because it's cool and interesting and sexy and new, and it's just fun and exciting. But also for someone to see someone getting deep pleasure from these things that are seen as abhorrent, it is confusing, and it's suspicious, because if we saw people walking around doing disgusting things, we would be like, what is wrong with them? Why are they behaving that way? And even though we're fighting this battle of believing that our body isn't disgusting, there's still that thought of, ooh, what's wrong with them that they are getting joy from my body? Because clearly, don't you have eyes? Can't you feel it? Can't you this experience, can't you tell that it is not attractive? So that is a normal feeling when that happens. For me, like, if someone is marveling at my body, I'm going to soak that shit up. It deserves to be marveled. There's nothing wrong with thinking that fat bodies are cool, right? So I would ask you to think about like why you're feeling uncomfortable. Is it because he isn't being upfront and honest? Is it because you're suspicious of someone appreciating your body? Why are you feeling uncomfortable? Is it because it feels non-consensual? Do you feel objectified? And so it sounds like, a part of that, the definition of fetishism is, that objectification. And an objectification, if it's non-consensual, it can feel really awful. An objectification is breaking people down to their body parts and seeing them as non-human, seeing them as an object. And when things are seen as objects or non-human, they can be seen as property, which means that people can do what they like with them, which means that you are not safe, which means that can lead to violence. And so it's kind of like the tip of an iceberg of, this feels yucky and I don't know why. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but that's why, objectification is something that we want to avoid, because, people are people. People are not objects. So is it that you feel objectified? And there's no right or wrong answers here. It could be that you just getting to know a new person and it's different, and you've been with someone for 12 years and size has never been an issue on the table, and now it is, and that's weird and that's different. Or it could be that he is fetishizing you in a non-consensual way and it's not okay with you, right? But you're kind of like exploring to find out what is going on here. So talk to him about how you feel. And yeah, he could say, yeah, I'm a fat fetishist. I love fat people. And then you can decide if that's okay with you. And you can decide, what does that, you can ask him, what does that mean? Does that mean that if I become thin, you don't want to be with me? Does that mean you're not interested in my personality? You're only interested in my body? Does that mean you just appreciate fatness and you see the abundance and softness, and that just really gets you going? What does that mean? What does that mean to us? And you could decide, oh yeah, it means that if I was ever to become thin, he would immediately dump me. Then you can ask yourself questions of how does that feel? Is that okay with me? Imagine if the tables were turned. If you were with someone and you happened to be straight size and they said, if you ever put on weight, I'm going to automatically dump you. Would that be someone you would want to be with? And so there's no right or wrong answer because we don't really have all the information, right? So yeah, it's okay to fetishize as long as it's consensual. And it's not a problem unless it becomes a problem in life, Same with anything. Same with, having disordered eating or having an eating disorder, or not comparing having a fetish with an eating disorder. But the reason I mentioned that is the reason the time that it becomes a problem is when it is a problem, and when it's affecting your life in negative ways, and it means that you can't live a normal life. And so, so we want to get out of this idea that being a fat fetishist means that there's something nefarious happening there, that there's something bad. If it is not impacting your life negatively, their life negatively, then it could just be some fun. Or it could be something that you're not interested in, and that's okay as well. So go ask some questions, see how it is. And it's interesting, isn't it? Let me know what happens next. I want to know. But the rest of the listeners want to know what happens, what this person says. So, okay. Fetishism. All right. So I wanted to talk about intuitive fasting. You've probably, this has been out a couple of months now, but so GOOP donkey Gwyneth Paltrow. So Gwyneth Paltrow, the actress, has a company called GOOP. I don't know what it stands. I don't think it stands for anything, basically, she's a massive bellend who is like just the worst. That's how I feel about her. Just a ton of problematic shit, like, you know, put crystals up your bum hole and you'll go to heaven and glitter will come out of your eyeballs and things like that. Like, bullshit, loads of bullshit, basically. And she has promoted a book called Intuitive Fasting, and it made me think about all the bullshit ways diet culture is sneaking into our lives. It's just a little snippet from what the GOOP company has said about the book Intuitive Fasting. When GP is experimenting with new ways of eating, we listen. GP is Gwyneth Paltrow. It just feels so gross, this whole thing, especially when it evolves and then they at the author of the book. I'm not going to tell you who it is because you don't need that in your life. Lately, GP has been working with Cole on the protocol from his new book, Intuitive Fasting, which just came out today. Spoiler alert, GP gave it rave reviews. GP also wrote the foreword, so she's probably getting paid for it. The book outlines Cole's 4-week food plan and helps us understand our body's cues and to eat for both satisfaction and restoration. There's a little snippet there. If you read that bit without me making fun of it and putting on a voice and stuff, you would be like, okay, outlines a food plan, helps us understand our body's cues, yes, to eat for both satisfaction and restoration. Yeah, okay. That sounds intuitive. Hopefully, most of the listeners of this podcast will see that word fasting and be like, let's kick this book into the sun, because you cannot intuitively fast. Like, by the way, intuitive fasting is bollocks. It's total made up. You can't intuitively starve yourself, because that is what's happening when you're fasting. You can't intuitively have an eating disorder. Like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. And what really gets on my tits about it is the fact that it's co-opting this, you know, the intuitive eating and the anti-diet, body positivity, fat positivity movement, and reselling it to people so that they feel better about the way they're doing things, because it's not a diet. It's intuitive fasting. Don't worry about the fasting bit, but it's intuitive. You're going to get thin. It's not diet culture, because we hate diet culture. But you're going to lose loads of weight. So, and then I was talking to a client about how to spot diet culture and how it's really well hidden, and fat phobia and how it's really well hidden, and she had a success, and she said that she was following this dietitian who on their account says I'm anti-diet and I'm health at every size, I'm a Haze dietitian. And then this person gave a tip to the audience that I won't repeat, which was to get a way to get less calories into your life. And it was shrouded in all of this other stuff. And it was kind of like, oh, and here's a little diet culture tip. Here's how to, you know, add in a sprinkle of disordered eating to your diet. And it's only kind of when you have those trained ears and eyes and senses that you're able to be like, that seems like some helpful stuff wrapped in some really problematic bullshit. So there are a massive number of these kind of fluffy accounts. The reason I call them fluffy, it's like surface level stuff without really getting into any type of basic understanding of the things that they say that they believe. You know, they body positivity and anti-diet is becoming more and more mainstream. Fantastic, love it. But then as dieting is falling out of fashion, thank fuck, diet companies and people who think dieting is good and weighing less is good have to become really fantastic at marketing. And so they will just go straight out and be like, this is not a diet. We hate diets. And so you'll be listening, be like, yes, I hate diets. Diets don't work. And then they'll be like, diets don't work. That's why I share my strategy of how to lose weight, which does work. It's not a diet. And you're like, oh, what's the strategy? Eat like hardly any food. Oh, so it's a fucking diet. So I wanted to lay out all of the sneaky little things that people might say or might do, which will show you that their account is not actually fat positive, body positive, anti-diet, health at every size, and that they are just, sticking a little label on the front to get people in the door so that they can sell them a diet, or they can tell them to lose weight, or show that they're not doing the work, which sucks. And the reason why I get so worked up about this and so annoyed is they're targeting vulnerable people who are like, I don't know, like they're at a crossroads of diets haven't worked, and I've spent my whole life hating myself, and I think there might be another way, and so then they start learning about this stuff, and they're fed bullshit like intuitive fasting, and so they think, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do intuitive eating, I'm going to do this intuitive fasting, and then it doesn't work because diets don't work, and then they're like, but this wasn't even a diet, and I still don't like myself. What is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. I am the common denominator here. Therefore, I am flawed. Yet another example of why I'm such a loser. I can't even stick to this intuitive eating stuff, even though it's not intuitive eating. And they internalize it, and they shouldn't, because they've been taken in by expert marketers who know what to say to get you to trust them and seem radical because they're saying these anti-diet things, but are not. Okay, so let me go over these things, okay? So if you've got any of these people in your life, you can just throw them into the sun, get rid of those motherfuckers, because it's no good for your mental health. Yay! All right, so how to tell if a body positive or anti-diet account is actually diet culture or fat phobia in disguise. So first, the sense you get looking at the account is it will be confusing. Like they'll share one thing that will be like, fuck yes, that seems really cool and in line with what I think. And then there'll be another thing where you're like, I don't know about that. That's making me feel some things. It's making me feel like less than in some way. They will have a majority or only pictures of themselves as a straight size person bending over, showing their teeny tiny tummy rolls, their itty bitty tiny tummy rolls. Or they'll be like, here's a picture of me being posed, and there'll be like a model bikini, and they'll be like, here's a picture of me not holding my breath, and then you'll be like, is there a difference? I can't really see one, nothing to the naked eye. Let me zoom in. Oh yeah, I can see that her stomach is like 1, maybe 2 millimeters more protruding than it was in the first picture. Yeah. Oh. Hashtag body positivity. And so many straight size people get mad when I talk about how it's not appropriate for thin white women to be saying, my life is so hard because I have a belly roll, because, and especially using the hashtag body positivity, because body positivity is a movement started by fat people for fat people to make sure that marginalized bodies are being centered. And so it's doing the opposite, like literally doing the opposite. You're using a normative body, a body that society says is great, a-okay. And and straight size people are like, oh, but look, if I contort into a pretzel, sometimes I get a tiny little roll on my tummy, and that's really sad for me. Now, straight size people can have bad body image, but they do not experience systemic fat phobia. All right, so if they have pictures of other people, then it will be people who are still fitting in with society's expectations. And if they have fat people on their feed, it'll be small fat people, and it'll be fat people with an hourglass, fat people who are not super fat people. Because that's just too extreme for them. They don't want to be seen as they're promoting the O word. They don't talk about the politics of fat phobia. So, for example, they don't know that body positivity stemmed from fat positivity, and they think that body positivity is just hashtag loving yourself, which it's not. That's loving yourself. So, two different things. They don't recommend fat accounts to follow or uplift marginalized voices, and they don't acknowledge their thin privilege. They don't understand about thin privilege because they wouldn't be posting the teeny tiny tummy roll selfies. And if someone mentions thin privilege, then they'll be like, oh, but thin people don't like their body as well. Instead of being like, yeah, it's inappropriate for thin people to be overtaking this movement, which is created by and for fat people. They use words like healthy, BMI, and the O words with no context or disclaimers. So they are very loaded words, and they will just throw them out there without dismantling it. So they're not saying like, oh, the BMI is bullshit. They're just like, if your BMI is this, or they'll talk about health as if it isn't a really nuanced topic, and how not everyone can be healthy or not everyone wants to be healthy, and that health is largely out of our control for, many different factors are involved in what makes up health and how health is a social construct, all that type of stuff. So there's no talk like that's going on. They don't provide trigger warnings or content warnings, and then share stuff that even the kind of the average person will know that this is difficult to see. And just the whole kind of not even mentioning fat phobia in general, not using fat as a neutral descriptor. Like it's fine, when people say like bigger bodied, higher weight, things like that, but then but if they're not even mentioning the dynamics at play and how all of these things are so deeply intertwined, and that, for me, that is a red flag. A big one, and I see this all the time, sharing before and afters. But they're like, but it's a good before and after because I'm sharing before. I used to be really thin and I used to be sad, but now I'm still thin, but heavier thin person, and now I'm happy. You're still showing a normative body and showing images of someone who is potentially in an eating disorder. And so saying, hey, let's look at this body and let's make judgments about these bodies, which is the stuff that we want to stop doing. And so even if it's, obviously the before and afters of, I used to be so fat and look at me now, I'm so thin, that's obviously problematic. But then a lot of people turning it around being like, oh, look, I used to be so sad, and will show themselves in a bikini. But, that is still problematic in a different way. They share pictures of their meals, as in you should eat this kind of way, not in a look at me, an act of rebellion, eating a donut or whatever. So they'll be like, oh, what a nutritionist eats for lunch. And it'll be like a anti-diet nutritionist, and it'll be like, oh, what did they eat for lunch? Oh, they ate some steamed fucking Brussels sprouts. Really? Who's steaming shit at lunchtime anyway? But really? Like some steamed Brussels sprouts? No. That's not good, because you know what people are going to do? They're going to be like, well, oh shit, I didn't have steamed Brussels sprouts for lunch. That means that I am bad. And I need to be doing that because the nutritionist who is body positive, who is hashtag anti-diet, is showing me that they had steamed Brussels sprouts for lunch. Saying things, there's certain phrases that I'm like, saying things like confidence is sexy, or confidence is beautiful, or healthy is the new skinny. Things like those phrases, and even things like real women have curves. All those types of phrases just show it's kind of like they don't have a deeper understanding of why those things are problematic. And so I'm like, do you know what is going on here? Oh, I don't know. They say things like, I love myself, therefore I'm losing weight for my health condition. This is a big one. I see this so much. People are like, I'm losing weight for my health condition, therefore it's body positive. I'm like, what? But I thought you were into like weight science. I thought you were into the idea that diets don't work for a tiny majority of people, but people have it in their mind. But if I'm losing weight, not for bad reasons, the bad reasons being that I want to look thin and I want to look good. If I'm losing weight for good reasons, I want to be healthier, then it's going to work for me. It's going to work for me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to become thin. No. Your body doesn't know that you're doing it because you want to be a bikini model, or you're doing it because you want to run after your kids. It's all the same to your body, you know? It doesn't work. So if an account or person or whatever the stuff, it just doesn't make you feel right, it's making you feel bad about the way you're doing things, then you know that it's probably time to say bye-bye to these accounts that claim to be fat positive, body positive, anti-diet, health at every size, but really it's the same old bullshit, but with a nicer facade. So we don't want that shit in our lives, do we? No. And it's hard. I tell you what though, it's hard. So don't feel bad if you're like following people who are like that. One of the very first hashtags that I followed on Instagram was healthy is the new skinny. I think there's an account called healthy is the new skinny. And I was like, yes, this is so radical. I don't care about being skinny. I just want to be healthy. And now I'm like, ooh. And so then that led me into other accounts that were more problematic, and more accounts that were more, you know, because you get recommendations. So it led me down a path which was not the most helpful for me at the time. And so avoiding all of these things, if you can, is going to mean that you're going to get more of that good, juicy, fat positive, actual fat positive. And there's loads of, by the way, there's loads of straight-sized dietitians and nutritionists and fat positive folks out there who don't do this shit. There's so many of them. And I'm just like, oh my God, stop my beating heart. I love you so much. There's so many that don't do it. And there's so many that are capitalizing on this new trend of saying diets don't work and don't understand anything about what they're saying. And they're like, okay, so anti-diet, but my diet is better. My diet is better. It's not a diet. It's not a diet. It's not a diet. It's just don't eat any food ever. And then you'll be thin and then you'll be dead. And then you'll be really happy. But it's hashtag not a diet. Oh, makes me sad. So All right. Hope that was helpful for you. Reminder, go to sign up for that challenge. fiercefatty.com/challenge. How to love your fat body. Be in all the photos. Ditch your boring clothes. And stop pulling your top down to hide your belly. fiercefatty.com/challenge. And I shall see you in the next episode. All right. See you later, crocodile. Stay fierce, fatty. Thanks for listening to the episode. And if you feel ready to get serious about this work and want to know when the doors open to Fierce Fatty Academy, which is my signature program where I teach all about how to overcome your fat phobic beliefs and learn to love your fat body, then go to fiercefatty.com/waitlist. Again, that is fiercefatty.com/waitlist to get your name on the waitlist for when Fierce Fatty Academy, my signature program, opens.